everyone! As promised, I said I would come back and do a video about how to use your equipment and maybe a little bit of handling and a little bit of talking you through how you can make grooming a nice experience for your cat. My cats don't have much hair to demonstrate on, so this is Douglas. Douglas isn't real. Douglas is rather droopy, Droopy Douglas. So we're going to try and use him to show you what we do, okay? This is very basic, just stuff you can do at home. As you can see, I've got my grooming table out here. Obviously you don't have grooming tables at home. What you do have is work surfaces, chairs, sofas, floors, you know, wherever your cat is comfortable. Doesn't necessarily have to be up high on a table. But just for video purposes, it's just a little bit easier for me to show you on here. So ideally, Douglas won't stand up because his legs are all floppy. The perfect ideal way to groom a cat, for me, is if you've got a cat that's really food motivated. Because what you can do, you can put a bowl of food or some special treats, dreamers, chicken, ham, whatever floats your cat's boat, on the table or in front of where you are. And ideally they could just stand there and be enjoying all that food while you get your brush and start working through the coat and along the sides. And because they're having such a nice time eating some tasty stuff, you know, they tend to not notice what you're doing. And plus it pairs the food with the grooming, so you know, each time the grooming brush comes out and they think, ooh, this is good because I get like my tasty treats round about now. That's the perfect way to do a cat, really, because then you could get to all the little fiddly bits in their armpits and stuff like that, and in between the legs. And if they're that distracted, then perfect. Now, not all cats are like that, I'm aware of that. You know, not all my clients are like that. Some of them are, some of them aren't. Most of the time I'll get a cat that kind of just lays there maybe. Even though, you know, they're quite happy to lay there and let me do some work on them. So what I'll just quickly run through is just showing you sort of how to use the brush. So when we're brushing a cat, we want to make sure we get back down to the bottom of the skin. Obviously Douglas doesn't have skin because he's big, but we can kind of get the idea of what we're doing, okay? So you'd want to brush up the hair away, so you're taking the bulk of the coat away there, and then with your brush, brushing in the direction of the coat growth, you just move little bits down at a time, sort of peel that from underneath your hand, okay, and brush down, making sure you get the back of the leg as well as the front of the leg, and then this bit here on the side. And then once you've done that, you'd get your comb and you'd just run through, make sure we've got all the bits out, nothing major in there. When we've done that bit, we'd move along the side. Douglas is so well behaved, it's amazing. And then we do the same again, so you move the bulk of the hair with one hand and then just brush little bits down with the other. Okay, so you can see what you're doing a little bit at a time, which is easier than just sort of going full at it, because then you're not quite sure if you've missed anything. So little bits at a time. And once you've done that, then you check through with your comb again, make sure the comb goes through there. Okay, so there we've done the leg and we've done the side of him. If your cat's happy just to sit, you know, nice and still, then you could work along the back as well. Obviously in the same sort of way, you know, just do little bits at a time so you know where you've worked from. Oops. Douglas doesn't weigh much, that's why the brush is moving him around. And so on. So do that little bit up there. And then once again, get your comb and just check through what you've done. Okay. Don't forget tails, but you can maybe leave tails till last, because tails brushing up, it's not the favourite thing on a cat. But always make sure that you do the top of the tail as well as the underside. Now you don't want to start flipping your cat's tail up and doing that because they're not going to like it. So what you want to do gently with your hand, maybe just gently roll the tail and get your brush underneath there. Sorry, it's a bit out of shot there, isn't it? Let's just do that again. So you do the top and then just gently move the tail and get your brush underneath it rather than moving the tail too much, okay? Douglas is so good. Let's face him. Look. Hello everyone. And then we've got heads as well. Now most cats do enjoy their heads being brushed. Obviously Douglas likes everything being brushed because he's so good. So again, brushing with the direction of the coat growth. Make sure you get behind these ears as well. That's where knots form, right behind there. So you want to get in there. And then when you've done that, check with your comb again, okay? And then we want to do the front as well. So you can gently just lift your cat's head up, just with a finger. I mean, if there's two of you that you've got at home, you know, then one of you can sort of be giving little treats every now and again while the other one's doing the grooming, so it can become quite a team effort, which is really helpful, which is how I work with my customers. Or if you're a customer of mine, you'll know that. That, you know, if you've got like a cat that's well up on its treats, then usually I'll get you just to stand there and you know, randomly give them some while I'm doing some work, because then it takes the mind off what I'm doing. So lift the chin up and then you can get right under there with your brush and then check over with your comb as well. There you go. His legs look a bit broken actually, don't they? Didn't make him very straight legs. So there's one side of him. And then we always want to make sure that we can check tummies as well. Now tummies can be done in different ways. It depends on what your cat's going to tolerate, alright? So some cats are quite happy to turn over on the side like that. If your cat's comfortable with that, then that's perfect. Because from there you can do the tummy and you can gently lift your front leg and get into your armpit like that. Again, just quickly checking with your comb that you've got everything out of there. If your cat's not comfortable with that, that's fine, totally fine. There are other ways to do it. Like I said, if your cat's happy just to stand up, then you could get your comb or your brush just under there while they stood there, that's fine. Or the other way to do it is to just get hold of your cat's elbows really gently. So I've got my hands just under his elbows there. And then you want to sort of tuck his bum into your tummy and then roll him up there. So his back legs are still stood on the table, but my body is his security there, so he's nice and safe. And then we just quickly comb his tummy there. And then from there you can just check in between those back legs as well. And then let him down again, okay? There we go. That's one side of him done. Let's turn him round. And then you could do the other side as well. Now obviously I'm talking about cats that are going to tolerate all this in one go. I'll just be doing this while I talk to you. I've got quite a few customers, and if you're watching this then that's fine, hi. Got quite a few customers' cats whose cats will tolerate literally that one leg. You know, I might have brushed that leg and then they'll thought, that's enough for me, just for now. In which case we just let, you know, we take his hands off the cat can step down off the table, have a few minutes, you know, have some treats, give itself a little wash, and then, you know, a few minutes later we'll get the cat back on, or we'll invite the cat back on if it wants to go for itself, and then we'll just do a little bit more. And what you're doing there, by giving the cat that choice to get off and on or walk away and come back, you're giving the cat the control over the situation, which is what cats need. Okay, they like choice, they don't like to feel like they're not in control of something. And by doing that as well, you're actually lowering them stress levels. So if you give them that time on the floor or that time away just for 5 minutes, it brings them stress levels down again. They can process what's just happened and they think, oh okay, that's not too bad. So we can get them back on and we can do a little bit more, and then we just repeat that. And we could repeat that for, you know, for like an hour, on and off in the hour. But in the end, we'd end up with a cat that's, you know, being groomed, but it's being groomed at its own time and its own pace. And then you end up with a cat that's not stressed. You end up with a cat that's, it's not built a negative association to the grooming either, which is always good, because grooming a cat, especially if you've got a long-haired cat, you know, you're going to be doing it for life. So you don't want grooming to be a stressful situation for your cat. Look at him. Best cat ever. It's great. He's going to look lovely when I've brushed him. And then he won't need brushing ever again. So as you can see, what I'm doing here is just doing little bits at a time, brushing, checking with the comb. As I mentioned in my previous video as well, if you've got a cat that doesn't like the brush, that's fine. You know, don't worry about it too much. If they prefer the comb over the brush, that's fine. You can just work through it with your comb, really gently. So we'll pick a bit that we've not done here. So you do the same thing, you just move the hair and then you just comb a little bit at a time through there, so you can see where you've combed and you can see what you're doing. Or vice versa, if your cat doesn't like the comb but it likes the brush, then if you brush through, then that's fine. You don't need to check over with the comb if your cat really doesn't like it. So it's all about finding what works for you and your cat, okay? So one other thing as well is, if you've got a cat that doesn't like grooming, like I've just said, if I'm working on a customer's cat and it needs breaks in between, that's fine. So if you've got a cat at home that you're trying to groom that doesn't like it, then, you know, what we need to do, we need to just teach that cat that it can be done in little stages. Alright? So if you've got a cat that really doesn't like grooming, or you're trying to get it used to grooming, what you can do, he's so cuddly, what you can do is basically get yourself a little rota for grooming your cat over the week, okay? This is a really good tip, and I've told my customers who know me, I've probably told them this before as well. Don't feel like you need to groom all your cat in one day if your cat cannot cope with that, right? So you almost want to break your cat down into little sections. So we've got like a back leg, we've got a side, we've got a front end, we've got a tail, and then you've got all that repeated on the other side as well. So little sections, and if all you do in one day is brush one leg for 10 seconds while your cat's having some really tasty food, leave it at that, okay? Just leave it at that. You've done that leg, they've had a good experience, they've had some food, they thought, oh, that was alright. So then day 2, repeat the same, but do another section of your cat. So you know you've done that leg. So day 2, you can do a different part of the cat while they're having some tasty food. Keep it short, keep it to those 10-20 seconds. I mean, when you're brushing a cat and you've got a cat that's not very tolerant, 10 seconds is quite a long time. It doesn't sound it, but it is for that cat. So if you can build up 10 seconds a day of grooming little different, you know, different parts of your cat, you'll get to the end of the week and hopefully you'll have done the whole thing, right? And then you can start again. And then what you're doing there as well is slowly every day you're just doing a bit of training with your cat as well. You're getting used to all this and you're giving it a positive, you know, a positive feeling with it all as well. So all these tasty treats, you know, if your cat likes chicken or ham, save them for your grooming sessions. Don't just be giving them willy-nilly throughout the day. You know, save them for the good stuff. Douglas is so good. Okay. Do you know this cat is actually a puppet. So you can put your hand under here, into his mouth. Ew. This is why I'm not a ventriloquist, I'm a cat groomer. Right, so for those of you that listened to my previous video and were interested in the rubber brush as well, so we've worked on the slicker brush, by the way, that was the first one we were doing. So those who've got short haired cats, now I am hoping to do a little video with one of my girls with this. Now, so I'm hoping, it depends if she's cooperative or not at the time. But I'll try and do a little video maybe next week of one of my girls with this, because it works better on short coats. But your rubber brush is the same principle sort of thing. You want to, you know, start on a nice bit. Let me go back a bit actually here. So I mentioned slicker brushes, and I mentioned brushing through your cat. If you've got a cat that's not very tolerant, by the way, always start on a bit that it doesn't mind, and you'll usually find that heads, cheeks, chests, or this bit right here, this bit here, the base of the tail, that's always a good spot. So if you've got a cat that you're getting used to grooming, always start on a bit that it favours, because what you can do from there is extend the area back across the cat. Okay, so same principle goes for the rubber brush, by the way, as well. Always start on a bit that your cat likes, which is usually sort of head and neck stuff. And you would just gently rubber brush all along his body. Their body. It's actually working, it's actually getting fake cat hair out of Douglas, which is funny. And then, you know, down the sides, down his legs. And then again, get your comb and you just check over what you've done with that and just pull any loose bits off. Obviously, because he's not a real cat, we're not actually pulling anything proper out of him. And it's not like grooming real cat fur on cat skin, but hopefully this super short video is just giving you a few handy tips about how to sort of use the tools. And like I mentioned before in my previous video, with your slicker brushes, you can just test them on your own now, so you know what they feel like. And then bear in mind that cats have got a fur coat on them, so it's going to feel even sort of, you know, less scratchy to them really, because they've got that coat protecting that skin. But always be careful of how, you know, hard you're doing it. And if you separate the coat like I've mentioned and you can see the skin, then you know that that brush is getting through that anyway. Okay, right, so that was my super short video about brief grooming tools and how to use them, and maybe a little bit of handling. So any questions, drop them in the comments. I might not have covered everything because I'm literally just doing this off, you know, on the fly kind of thing. So if I have forgotten something, please drop me a message or drop a comment and I'll try and answer any questions. I hope you found it useful. I hope it makes sense because I've been a bit waffly again. And me and Douglas will see you later. Bye.